Hello everybody, thanks for tuning in. Another episode of the SF Fitness Update Show. Now I know I've not been putting out as many of these as I maybe like to, and I could regale you with all kinds of excuses as to why. But as you know, what I've said all times is there's always excuses for things, and you can always overcome things. So all I can do for that is apologise. But stick with me. I'll keep putting content out. Hopefully you enjoy it, and you keep watching and keep learning. Now, what I'd like to talk to you today is about two things that have been happening in the media this week that, it'd be remiss of me not to put my opinion forward because it's to do with sport and a little bit to do with nutrition. The first thing is obviously the Luis Suarez incident. Now, you can't have escaped this, even if you were living on Mars with your fingers in your ears and covering your eyes. The guy's bit somebody. And people talking about the sanctions being too heavy. Bit somebody the third time he's done it, and you've got to think to yourself, why does this happen? Now, in my opinion, I could have helped Luis Suarez if he'd have come to me, because I think he's just succumbing to his cravings, and everybody has cravings, don't they? Me personally, I've talked about it before. I have a real issue with I have way too much coffee. For me, it's a default setting sometimes. If I get bored, I'll just make a coffee. Now, it might not be so bad, but I'd also have milk and sugar in it, so it cranks up the unhealthy stuff a little bit too high. What I've done recently to combat this, and I've mentioned this to quite a few people before, is I've started taking a supplement called LeanGreens. This is LeanGreens. This packs in a lot of nutrients, broccoli, spinach, all kinds of loads of stuff that you get in there that I don't get a lot of in my diet. One, because I don't like them. And two, because sometimes there's not enough time to really pack that stuff in. But what I find with this is that it's helping me curb my cravings. I don't feel the need to get the coffee all the time, because what happens is cravings are a result of a nutrient deficit in your body. So your body sends signals to the brain, which tells the body, or tells you, that we need to eat, we need some nutrients in. And the problem we have with that is that the signals get confused, because you think you need to eat, but then what happens is the input you get from media or from everywhere around all of a sudden translates into we need to eat whatever's close, whatever's convenient. So you just end up snacking, or you have too much coffee because it's easy, it's right there. In Mr. Suarez's case, he obviously craves human flesh. Now, some people do. That's up to you, that's your particular taste. But he's succumbed to his cravings because he's not got enough nutrition in his diet. If Mr. Suarez was to take LeanGreens, this whole situation would have been avoided. He wouldn't have had to eat what was right there in front of him, and maybe he could have gone on to some goal scoring and done really well in the World Cup. So if you suffer from cravings, which I do, a lot of people out there, maybe give this a try. Okay, I'm going to put the link to a LeanGreens site where you can go and buy it in the comment section. You don't have to, if you get plenty of greens in your diet, don't worry about it. You don't need to have it. For me, I get it because I don't have enough greens in my diet, and I find craving for coffee, and I have a real sweet tooth as well. Really hinders my body composition. And I've been having this, and I'm finding this really, really working in terms of me. I don't feel the need to go and have sweet stuff. I don't feel the need to go have coffee all the time. I just focus on training, focus on proper nutrition. So it's really helping me in that way. The other thing I will say is, don't expect it to taste like a chocolate milkshake. It's a greens drink. It's going to taste like greens. Okay, moving on. The next thing I'll talk about, I saw this on the front page of a paper the other day, and I thought it was quite interesting because it's the same kind of paper that will go. Well, I'll explain in a second. It was talking about Andy Murray. Andy Murray, because Wimbledon's starting soon, so it was talking about Andy Murray and his diet. And all I saw was this headline, and it says how so and so prepares Andy Murray's incredible 6,000 calories a day diet. And they're praising Andy Murray because he has 6,000 calories a day. Whereas if somebody they didn't know was having 600 calories a day, there'd be all kinds of articles in that very paper saying how it's unhealthy, they're having too much, they're putting themselves at risk. Now, the thing you're taking here is perspective and relevance. Andy Murray's having 6,000 calories a day, probably because he's picking up to the biggest tournament of the year. So as an athlete, he's trying to peak, so he's trying to get as many calories in there because he's been training very, very hard, and he needs to repair his body, he needs to have fuel for the Wimbledon tournament, because it's a lot of work to do. So that's why he's eating a lot of calories. If you don't exercise that much, you don't need a lot of calories. You need enough to survive. The more you exercise, the more calories you need. So if you feel like you need to eat a lot, you're going to have to exercise a lot more to make it worthwhile. The other thing you need to worry about that is people might just think, oh, it's having 6,000 calories, so I can just pile in whatever. No. People like Andy Murray, professional athletes, will hire nutritionists and they will tailor their diet specifically. So it's not just having 6,000 calories, it's having 6,000 calories that are relevant to what he does, relevant to his body's needs, his need for his muscles to repair, his need for his central nervous system to stay on tune and on track, and everything needs to keep itself prepared and able to train efficiently and train well. So you're looking at 6,000 calories, it's not overweight, it's not out of shape. 6,000 calories without moving, without having the relevant calories, the relevant dietary requirements, will result in being out of shape and being unable to move. So when you see things like that and you think about the relevance, if you want to train hard, you need more calories. If you want to train hard and keep training hard and be efficient in your training and get progression, you need to have the right nutrients in your calorie count. A lot of people talk about if it fits your macros, all this kind of stuff. It's just being sensible. Just get plenty of fresh meat, fresh fish, fruit, veg, nuts, lots of fresh ingredients, greens, and then you're on to a winner. It's very, very simple. A lot of people think there's a lot of tricks to it. It's very, very, very simple. Just eat right, eat clean, get to your markets, and everything will be fine. Okay? Now, as I've said before, if you want any specific training advice or nutrition advice, feel free to get in touch. I can help you as much as I can. Bear in mind, I'm not free. But if you're good at something, you don't do it for free. Okay. Hopefully that clears up a couple of things. If you want to, feel free to share my viewpoints. Share away. And I'll see you next week. Thank you.